As conservative syndicated columnist Pat Buchanan points out, the GOP has become the target of some good old-fashioned name-calling from liberals, all because they are standing their ground on the debt ceiling debate. Just listen to what editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast and Newsweek, Tina Brown, calls Republicans.
What was the answer to my question about who the hostage taker is, Willie?
Sounds like Pat's boys. Pat's boys are holding the hostage.
I think they're the suicide bombers in all of this.
Suicide bomber. While Washington Post columnist Richard Cohen writes, quote, the grand old party, so named when it really did evoke America, has so narrowed its base that it has become a political cult. The New Republic insists that, quote, the GOP's Hezbollah wing is now fully in control. And even the New York Times so-called conservative columnist David Brooks says, quote, if responsible Republicans don't take control, independents will conclude that Republican fanaticism caused this default. They will conclude that Republicans are not fit to govern, and they will be right. Fanatics, a political cult, suicide bombers, terrorist organization. Well, has the left finally taken its scare tactics one step too far? Joining me now with reaction, the former communications director for the Republican National Committee, Doug Heye, and Democratic strategist Steve Murphy. All right, Steve, I'm just going to start coming out referring to liberals as Hezbollah, terrorist organizations, suicide bombers, and cultic.
Not your style. Not your style.
Forget about
Sean.
not my style. It's you know what, I'm sick and tired, Steve.
You don't like it. Why would you do it? You don't like it. I don't like it either. That's not the right way to have this debate.
All right, you don't like it either, but the left keeps doing it. The left keeps attacking viciously. Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann. Here's the problem. You say it, a couple other Democrats say it, it goes in passing, it doesn't get noticed, and it keeps happening. If a conservative says it, they get fired, their advertisers get targeted, because liberals that can say anything, but free speech doesn't exist for conservatives in the media anymore. That's the problem.
Hey, David Brooks said it. He didn't get fired. He's a rhino now, by the way, Sean.
David Brooks has never been a conservative.
Look, I'm going to say what I really feel about this debate on the debt limit. I think Republicans are being irresponsible now. I think using analogies like Hezbollah or terrorist or suicide bombers or Hitler or anything like that, that doesn't do anybody any good.
Steve, you know what's irresponsible? I'll tell you what's irresponsible. Bankrupting the country. You know what's irresponsible?
That's what the Republicans are going to do.
Excuse me. For people paying 50% of their wages and income, and then getting beaten over the head, called selfish and greedy. Half the country doesn't pay taxes. And, Doug, 1 in 7 Americans, thanks to the poverty programs of Obama and Democrats, need food stamps to survive. That, to me, is far worse.
Absolutely. And, you know, what really demonstrates to me how detached the left is from the reality in America is that Richard Cohen quote talking about how our base is shrunken. Let's go back to 2006 and 2008 when Democrats were saying that we were a white Southern male party. Then we started with Scott Brown and Chris Christie. Now we've got Nikki Haley. We've got Tim Scott. We've got Alan West, Susana Martinez. This is a party that's growing. And if Democrats think that's shrinking, that's fantastic for us. And we'll just keep on trucking.
You know what? I got to tell you, from purely a political standpoint, you know, if the president and his party think class warfare is going to get them over the finish line, while while Obama accumulates $5 trillion in debt, while unemployment is at 9.2%, while 17% of the population is not working because his policies have failed, if you think that's going to work, and I don't think you do, Steve, then you're going to see the destruction of your party, at least in the short term. Why don't they substantively try and create jobs in this country and unleash the entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, hey, Sean, let's be honest about what the Republicans in Congress are walking away from here. The Democrats, Barack Obama is willing to do about $3.2 trillion in cuts.
No, he's
wants
not.
to have yes, he is.
No, he wants
about $800 billion in taxes. 1/4 of all the deficit reduction that he's looking for, approximately, from all reports, is from taxes. And you know what else is silly about this whole thing?
According to
the
reports.
Republicans are willing to let Moody's and S&Ps downgrade our debt. They're willing to let the stock market lose $1 trillion. They're willing to let home mortgages go sky high, the variable rate mortgages.
This is nonsense.
All for a tax cut that's going to expire at the end of next year anyway.
50% of Americans pay no federal income tax. Half. 1 in
That's the
7
way
Americans are on
Republicans,
food
when they
stamps.
passed the amendment, designed it.
You know, Doug, when I didn't
That's
have any,
a Republican
hang on a second. Listen, I drove $200, $300 cars for years. I worked in construction. I washed dishes. I waited tables. I tended bar. I was banging nails. I was painting houses. And you know what, Doug? I was glad rich people hired me. Rich people went out to dinner. If rich people don't buy yachts, remember the yacht tax? If rich people don't buy planes, all the demonization of private planes. If rich people don't go on expensive vacations, guess who's going to suffer? All the people the Democrats seem to care the most about, they're killing the opportunity for people to succeed.
You know, absolutely, Sean. Like any good North Carolina boy like I am, my first job was in a barbecue restaurant called Mr. Barbecue. And I'll never forget getting that first paycheck and seeing how much of my money was taken away from me before I even had the chance to get it. But I thank God that I had great people who hired me and employed me. And we need more people to do that to drive our economy. And that's what Marco Rubio was just talking about. And let's compare it to divisive rhetoric that we saw from another Florida politician, Alan Grayson. Overheated rhetoric is like an overheated radiator. You're just blowing steam and you don't accomplish anything.
I don't think, Steve, I don't think liberals like yourself are going to be happy until government gets 9 cents out of every dollar, quote, rich people,
Sean,
defined by $250,000 a year, small business job creators, pay 90 cents out of the dollar. Give it to the government. State,
Sean,
local,
I'm
federal.
not happy that hedge fund managers pay 15% and I pay 34%.
Listen,
that's what's wrong with our tax
I pay
code.
more than both of you put together. How do you like that? Is that fair, Steve?
No, you're at the top level.
You don't know.
Hopefully,
in an
election year, I might get there too sometime.
Number two, I pay fully 55+% of what I make, state, local, federal.
Get a new accountant, Sean.
Not a matter.
Get a new accountant.
Not a new accountant.
Become a hedge fund manager.
I pay my taxes. Obama, the IRS would put me in jail.
That's a good point.
You'd like that, wouldn't you? But you'd bring a cake with a file, wouldn't you?
I'd bring a cake.
Thanks. I want the file. I don't want the cake. All right, guys. Is she in? Is she out? New clues that former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin may soon be jumping into the 2012 race. We'll tell you all about it. Plus, our great American panel, Becco and Cal Thomas, in the house.